Nikki Wolf, aka Nikki_makeup, has just released a masterclass, and I watched all of them. I absorbed all of the information that I could. I was so excited. I have been such a fan of Nikki makeup for so long. I have learned so much from her, and over the years, she's always done like Sunday tutorials on her Instagram, and I feel like I have just been a sponge when it comes to her knowledge and her makeup style. And it's kind of one of those magical things where in a very saturated makeup world, you can always tell when a makeup look is done by Nikki makeup, and I think that's something very special about her style and the way she does makeup. So when she launched her master classes, I was like, say no more. I am signing up. I am paying whatever it is, and I'm going to see what more we can learn from her magical mind. So I signed up. I paid for her master class, and on the website as of now, it was 3 courses, 3 little videos that you could do, very much catered towards makeup artists. I think there's like a little certificate of completion. So a lot of it was talking about like techniques and application when you're working on clients, not necessarily doing makeup for yourself. So it's very much catered to a learning or working makeup artist. But I watched all 3 videos. There was also a bonus video talking through her kit, which didn't actually go into too much detail for product specific information. It kind of was just like a glance over and more so like how she packs her kit and like cleanliness of her kit. So again, like very much catered towards the makeup artist. But I wrote notes. I watched every single video multiple times, and it was so exciting to get a glimpse into her makeup kit, what she uses, and also just like a more in-depth talk through of some of her most signature looks. So today I'm specifically going to be kind of following along with the smoked out liner look that she did, which is very much a signature Nikki makeup look. So here we are, friends. I'm going to zoom you in, and I'm going to tell you everything I learned in the Nikki makeup masterclass. Sorry, actually, before we start, I also want to note that every time she posts like fabulous makeup looks and like the Sunday tutorials, she always has hair done on the models by Luke Pluck Rose. So I tried to do my hair inspired by that today in the spirit of Nikki makeup looks. And so please don't judge me too harshly, but I tried my best to channel my inner Luke hair. Okay, let's start. Oh my God, I'm so excited to put this makeup on my face. I have been so perplexed and mesmerized by how she does makeup. So let's start with the skin. So she really focused a lot on the skin. In a few of the videos, she started with like a face mask and really just talked about how important it is to just soften and prep the skin for makeup. So I'm gonna go in with the Welletta Skin Food. She actually used the Skin Food Light in one of the videos, but your girl is dry. Oh, so very dry. So we're just gonna put this all over, rub that into the skin. Oh, it's been a long time since I've used this. You know, winter is coming when I'm pulling out the Welletta Skin Food, but we're just gonna rub that all over. And she did a little face massage on some of them, and she was like, this is the time where you can really learn about your client's skin and how it's gonna react and all that good stuff. So I'm just gonna press that into the face. So if you've been following my channel, you know that I've kind of ditched primers a little bit. I've really just been focusing on the skincare, and I haven't been using primers as much as I used to. And I thought it was really interesting that Nikki in her video was like, I am a believer in primers. She said she thinks that primers like really help to just create the look that you want for the skin before you even apply any makeup. So she used a bunch of different primers. She had like a huge primer bag of a few of her favorites. I just kind of opted to use my favorite here. I wanted to pull out my e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer because this is a product that just works really well for me. And so I'm just gonna use a little bit of that just right here around my nose where I get extra porous and whatnot. One of the favorite primers that she mentioned was actually the Tom Ford Traceless Matte Primer, which I was really curious about. I'm like, maybe I should try it. She also likes the Indeed Labs Nano Blur Primer. There were a few that she mentioned, but in general, to just use a primer that suits what you want your skin to look like. So if you're super, super dry and you just need that extra hydration, use a hydrating primer. If you have a lot of pores or if you need something to help mattify, then use something to do that. And so just so you know, Nikki Makeup is a fan of primers. So then we move on to foundation. One of the products that she said was her most favorite products ever was the Chantecaille Future Skin Foundation. And I've been really curious about trying this for a really long time. I've heard so much about this. I feel like it had a big viral moment on TikTok as well. So it's been a long time coming for me to try this. And one thing that I thought was really interesting about her foundation application is she actually said she uses 2 brushes. So she had kind of like a more flat, like paintbrush application style brush, and she used that to brush it onto the skin first. So she like applies the foundation with one brush, and then she goes in and buffs it out with another brush, which is just something I've never really considered. I never considered using 2 brushes when it comes to applying my foundation. So I'm going in with a super, super light layer and just applying that onto the skin. She also avoids the entire eye area because she goes in with concealer and deals with that after. So she actually starts with foundation and then lets it sit and does its thing, and then we move on to the eyes. I feel like this is a very, very light skin-like foundation. I kind of thought I'd be getting a little bit more coverage here, but it's actually very skin-like. One thing that she also said about the primer, sorry, I totally skipped over it. It was a very interesting note, and she said she loves to apply lip primers because it kind of locks in the skincare and acts as a barrier before you apply your makeup so that the skincare you've applied can have time to sit and do its thing. And I thought that was interesting. I never actually thought about it that way. I never thought about it as like a protector of the skincare from your makeup. Anyway, so I've applied the foundation on. Then I'm gonna take a fluffier brush. She used the Smith Cosmetics 115 foundation brush. I don't have that, but I do have a very similar looking brush. This is my It Cosmetics 102 brush, which I love so much. And she just goes in and buffs that into the skin, which this might have to be a technique that I use, or I guess just the idea of like applying your foundation with your fingers first, giving it a minute to settle into the skin, and then really going in and refining that on the skin and buffing it. And throughout the entire, all of the videos, she says blending, blending, blending is key. She really spends a lot of time blending the product into the skin and making sure that there are no lines anywhere, just really undetectable. And that's one thing I love about the Nikki makeup, like the skin, the cheeks, the highlight, blush, it always just looks so beautiful and diffused. You can't tell where any piece of makeup starts and where another ends, which is one of the magic things about Nikki makeup. Okay, so that foundation is applied. I really can't see it on my face. I also feel like it didn't give me a whole lot of coverage, so maybe I could have used one that had a little bit more coverage, but I was just so excited to try it because she frequently talks about this foundation. So definitely like a good skin day foundation if you just want something super, super light. So we're letting the foundation sit and we're gonna move on to eyes. Oh, I love a Nikki makeup eye, truly. And I actually made a grave mistake and I'm so sorry. I have no idea where my NARS tinted eye primer went. I know I have it somewhere. I can't find it anywhere. So I do have the clear one, which is not the Nikki makeup way. She actually very specifically said that she loves a tinted eyeshadow primer. And she has the NARS one. She used a Laura Mercier one. And again, just like the face primer, she is a believer in the eye primer, which is funny because I feel like a lot of makeup artists talk about like just using concealer in place of an eye primer. So I thought that was interesting. And I love that she is a believer. So I'm so sorry that I didn't get the tinted one. I really thought I had it, but I'm just gonna blend this primer out onto the skin. And then we'll go into the eyeliner. Now, I was really nervous about this because, again, her eyeliner is like, it's so iconic. Every time you see a Nikki eye, you're like, yes, that is Nikki makeup. And this is one of the products that she has used forever. She always talks about MAC Costa Riche, this eyeliner specifically. If you guys have seen any of her Sunday tutorials, then you will absolutely know that MAC Costa Riche was coming. And she's a huge fan of eyeliners in general, and so many of her looks always start out with blending out an eyeliner onto the lid. So today I'm gonna see if I can do any of this justice. Now I can't stress enough like how much time she took like really working in the layers and slowly blending these layers out. So I'm gonna do my best to slow it down, but I'm also a very impatient soul. So MAC Costa Riche, let's go in. So she applies it onto the lash line. I took a little screenshot of the placement. One thing that I thought was so interesting is that she left a little gap, and she did this on all of the looks. And I thought that was so interesting because I always take my eyeliner all the way to the end and then, you know, blend it into my entire lash line. But every single one had this little gap. And I thought that was interesting because later she fills it in from the lower lash line anyway. But I was like, maybe this is just her process. But I thought that was fascinating. There was just always this little gap. So take with that what you will. And for reference, this is the liner once it's all blended out. How stunning. So we're taking this liner all the way down the lash line. And I'm gonna try to also leave that little gap. It's much harder when you're doing it on yourself because I can't close my eye to see that. But do I have a gap? So then taking our little shader brush and blending upwards, and she just blends and blends and blends and blends in tiny little movements until there is no line left. So I'm just really softly pressing onto the liner and making sure not to blend down. Just using tiny, tiny movements. Like typically when I'm doing this on myself, I'm literally just like wiping so fast, but I'm trying to be so particular and small with my movements because her little hand movements were just so precise. Such a professional, such an artiste. So we're just do, tiny, 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 poke, poke, poke. So once I'm done attempting my blend, I'm just going to take a clean brush. And she was constantly going in with clean brushes and just blending out each kind of layer until she was happy with the blend, which I keep seeming to get a little gap right here. And I don't really know what to say about that, but kinda. Good. Okay, I'm going to do the other eye, BRB. Taking the same matte Costa Riche liner on the lower lash line. And this is where she connects it to the upper lash line. So like I said, even though she leaves a little gap there, she does end up closing the gap with the liner, which I thought was very, very interesting. And then she just blends that out as well. I also thought this was fascinating because she did this before putting any product or concealer on the under eye, which is totally the opposite of what I would do, or what I have been doing. Maybe now I'm gonna switch up. And she just mentioned that she just doesn't want to put any unnecessary product under the eyes. Next up, we're going to intensify that line with a deeper color pencil. And another thing to note that I never considered this before, but she mentioned to not use any kind of long wearing liners, to stick with the kohl liners, or of the style of kohl liners, and that will help to really be able to like blend forever until you perfect a look. She said if you use a long wearing like 12-hour wear pencil, you're not going to be able to have the same blend time with it. And that's something I've never considered. I always just pick my liners when I'm doing my makeup based on the color. I never even considered the fact that a long wear eyeliner might not be able to blend as well. It's something that's very obvious, but something that I just didn't specifically think about. So I grabbed the Wayne Goss pencil, and this is Rich Hazel, and this is a little bit of a deeper cool tone brown. And I'm just gonna take that right on the lash line. She actually didn't use like a black here. She just used a deeper brown, and just using that right along the lash line as well. And she does a really, really fine line with this, and then a really soft blend. And just blending that so softly into the other liner until there are no harsh lines as well. Oh my God, these two colors go so well together. And again, she uses the softest little pressing touches when she's doing this. Just like that, wow. I love those colors together, yay. So at any point, if you wanted to blend out, she just kept going in with a clean brush. So you're not applying any more product, and you're just really lightly going over that to soften that out. Like, look at what a beautiful look already. Like, I'd happily just leave it like this. These two colors specifically go so nicely together. It's really, really soft with a clean brush. So now we're gonna go in with the eyeshadow. She actually used a lot of MAC eyeshadows. For this look and the colors that I'm going for, I'm actually gonna pull out my Hindash Beautopsy palette. I feel like the colors are perfect. So for this shadow, we're setting in the liner. So she said, just like a face setting powder, you're using the powder to set in the eyeliner and make sure that it stays. And you're also getting that really nice soft blend with it. So I'm gonna use this lovely little brown, this Feel and Real section here. And I'm gonna pat that over top. So just really, really lightly patting that on to set in that liner, but at the same time, like adding color is gonna add like a soft little diffusion in itself. Clean blending brush to just soften everything out. And then we're gonna do the same thing. I'm just keeping the same brush, and we're gonna use the black eyeshadow, and this is gonna go straight onto the lash line. So again, she places it onto the lash line, and any blending that happens is blending up. So I'm just pushing that onto the lashes, doing soft blending upwards. And then taking a smaller little shader brush, I'm going in with that black as well, and she takes this onto the lower lash line, just really, really softly. And she kind of just stayed on the outer corner as well, just a little bit of black, a hint of black on the lower lash line. And then she takes a clean brush, and this is something that I thought was super interesting. Usually at this point, I would like take a Q-tip or take some concealer and really like chisel out that line. But she said she doesn't actually like straight lines, that she really likes a diffused line. So she's always just going in with a clean brush and using that to blend all of the edges. And she was literally just like doing this around the area and not making any clean specific lines, just keeping it all so soft and diffused. And you could tell that her touch was very, very light. So she was just using a clean brush and going over, blending everything out and making it so soft, which again, what an interesting, fun little tip. Just use a clean brush. No lines, no well. So then for the infamous Nikki liquid liner. Now she was actually using the NYX Epic liner. I have a few black liners in tow, so I was just gonna use what I had. But one thing that I thought was very interesting, again, about the eyeliner placement that she did is she didn't actually like follow the bottom of the line that we've created with the shadow. She actually just went kind of above it. And I'm stressed that I'm not gonna be able to do this, so I'm just gonna really silently hold my breath here and try to do my best Nikki makeup liner. And she also only starts the liner at about the halfway point. She didn't take it all the way to the inner corner of the eye. So I'm starting in the middle of the eye, and I'm just oh, sorry guys, I was trying to be so precise there. Wow, oops. But yeah, she just kind of, there's like a little gap there, and it's almost like lifting the eye up. And I don't know how I meant to fix that without like using some kind of Q-tip. Okay. Well, we get the general idea of the liner. Do I need to work on that for 12 more years? Yes, I do. Keep your liquid liner handy because we're going to use that after we apply the lashes. But next up is the lashes. Another signature, very signature look for Nikki Makeup. She created her own individual lashes with Swede, and she always uses individual lashes and puts them all over, and it looks beautiful. She starts with a layer of medium and shorter lashes all along, and then she said she goes on top and does a second layer with the long just on the outer corner of the eyes, and that was kind of her process. I remember she did one Sunday tutorial where she specifically spoke about her placement of the lashes, and I was like, yes, I had been curious for so long. So I'm going to go through. She does do this before mascara. I'm going to apply the lashes, and I'll rejoin you 15 years later because it takes me a long time to do this. So I've applied all of the lashes, and she mentioned that if you have any residual glue to just go back over with your liquid liner and just press it on top to make any of those markings go bye-bye. So I'm just going on top, making sure that none of that glue is showing. So I actually picked up the mascara that she used because I had never seen it, or if I had, I just hadn't clued into it. But she was using the Estee Lauder Double Wear mascara, and first of all, the packaging is stunning of this. And she said, if you don't want any smudges, no transfer, this is her favorite mascara to use. And I was like, that is a big claim for a big smudging, blinking gal. So I was very curious to use it. And right away she goes in and applies the mascara on the upper and lower lashes. And she applies the mascara after applying the lashes to help mix it together. So she said if you're using like a strip lash or a corner lash, that she would apply the mascara first, but that if she's using individual lashes, she likes to apply the mascara on after to help blend them all together. This is a really nice like thin wand too, actually, so it's really getting in there and gripping it in. And I'm trying to be really precise with this so I don't get any mascara onto my lid. Just going in with really, really light coats. And she also took this and applied this onto the lower lashes. So I'm just gonna really lightly press that there. Wow, this is stunning for this. I love. So that's the mascara applied. Really excited about this. Definitely going to keep using this mascara, so we'll just keep that on hand. And let's move on to the concealer. So she mentioned multiple times throughout all of the videos that she's a huge fan of the Dior Backstage Concealer, and specifically the shade 2N, which is actually the shade that I have and use. And when she was doing the makeup, I was kind of interested to know what else she would do here, because she actually only took this concealer like right under the eye and so lightly. That's probably even more than she used, but she didn't really go in with the concealer anywhere else. She spent a lot of time using like a small little eyeshadow brush blending this out. So I'm gonna do the same and see how it looks, just taking really, really small strokes and blending that into the skin. And kind of like she basically took it on like the line under the bag and then just continued like blending it out until there was nothing left. So using that concealer all the way around. And then she said to make sure to not forget to go right up here into the inner corner of the eye. And actually using this small little eyeshadow brush already feels so, so nice. This is like something that a lot of makeup artists say, blending out the concealer with a really precise small brush. But she kind of only mentioned this for under the eyes. She didn't really mention concealer anywhere else. And fair enough, because the model she was doing it on had like perfect skin, not a blemish in sight, and probably also used a foundation with a little bit more coverage on that particular video. So I'm just gonna do this. This is blending out so beautifully under the eye here, getting right up in there. And I'm just gonna go ahead and use this same concealer to, you know, conceal where I need it. Like I have some zits right here. So I'm just gonna take a little bit there, a little bit down my nose and around my nose as well. But I'll just use her same methods of light blending. Now she did actually mention going in and taking your finger and using that to just like press in anywhere that you want extra blend. So I'm just blending that with the brush, and then just around my nose I often get a lot of brush strokes, so I'm just making sure to push that in with my finger once I'm done blending. Like even here I kind of applied a lot on my forehead, so I'm just gonna go in and press that with my finger a little bit. She also said like do whatever you're comfortable with. She's like you can use a bigger brush if you want, you can use a beauty blender if you want. She was like do whatever you're comfortable with, but for the sake of us following along with what we learned in the masterclass, I'm just using this small brush. So we'll let that concealer sit and do its thing. Let's move on to contour. She used the Westman Atelier contour stick throughout the videos, and she had a very interesting placement as well. She did like right on the bottom of the cheekbone. She created a line. Oh, she also said not to go all the way to the hairline, which I thought was an interesting tip. I just like automatically ran that all the way along. I'm so sorry. And then she did a little dot right here, like on the outside of the temple, and then a little bit on the forehead. And then to just go in and blend until there's no lines left behind. So she actually used the Smith Cosmetics 115 brush. I'm just using my Smith 157 brush because this is the one that I have. And she was just sitting here and blending forever, really making it seamless and diffused into the skin. She didn't want any harsh lines. Like even that just actually looks like such a natural shadow versus quite a solid intense line that I typically do with my makeup. And she was really going in and like buffing this into the skin. And I think because we've put such light layers on the rest of our makeup that it's actually a lot easier to be doing this like buffing motion into the skin, like pushing and buffing. And she just did this until everything was blended out and totally seamless. And she kind of was just like, listen, don't contour in areas where you don't need contour. If you want a little bit of shadow, that's fine. She was like, if you have a smaller forehead, like you don't need to put contour up here. This is actually such a pretty color. I haven't used this contour stick in quite a while, but just kind of leaving it a little bit more natural. And maybe this is something that I just need to do in my makeup more often. So she blended that around, and then she took a smaller brush and dipped into the contour, and also took that just right into these inner bits of the eye, which again, I do have a very natural shadow that already exists there. And she said she likes a nose contour every now and again, but that she just doesn't want to see the lines. So I'm gonna do my best to just really naturally kind of adjust my little weird nose lines here. I'm just blending that up into the brow. And that's the contour applied. Now here's where things continue to get very interesting. She said that the Victoria Beckham blush stick, specifically the shade Major, which I concur, one of my favorite shades, is one of her favorite shades to use. And for so long, I've been putting my blush like further and further up and out and like following all the TikTok trends, whatever. She's like, I put my blush right onto the apples of the cheeks. So she was like, smile. And she literally put the blush like right here, right into the apples of the cheeks, and pushes that into the cheek. So she was really like hugging the blush into the cheek here and really starting on the apples, which makes sense. It's like your natural smile ball, if you will. And she said she loves to use an angled brush. The Refero 4 brush is one of my favorite brushes ever for this. And she said she loves how it just like hugs the skin and you're able to push it in. So sitting here and pushing and buffing this into the skin, she spent quite a bit of time here, and she just did this to the point where there was no line anywhere of product. Like, how pretty is that? First of all, the color, but like everything blended together too. Oh my God. So next up, we're going in with the Laura Mercier setting powder. And she was like, be careful when looking at setting powders because there's a difference between setting powders and finishing powders. She was like, you want to use a setting powder for this, which I thought was a good thing to note. And she took a really small brush and just used that to set in the areas that she needed it. And she was going in really, really lightly around the face and just like a super light layer of powder and just really lightly patting that all the way around. Like no sprays here, no baking, just really lightly using this powder to set in where you need it. So I'm just basically taking this around the center of my face, kind of anywhere that we applied that concealer, and using that super, super soft hand to just pat this into the skin. And she also mentioned that she likes to go in with a powder contour after. So she specifically like took the brush and just like kind of dragged that along the line where we want to place the contour. And so kind of like instead of creating a baking line here, she just took the small brush and the powder and placed it along the cheekbone. And that's it for the powder. Okay, so speaking of, let's go ahead and use a contour. I haven't pulled out the Kevyn Aucoin contouring powder in so long, but I'm taking another one of my Refero 4 brushes that I have. She also mentioned she likes this shape for contour, and she said to use a really gray toned contour powder and to just lightly hug the skin with that and add a little bit more shadow if you want some more chiseling, just right here on the cheekbone. And she said to just, again, blend until there's no lines. So now we're going to use powder blush, and she pretty much did the same thing, using the same brush and applying a powder blush right to the apples of the cheeks. So this one's the shade Valentino number 4, and she just literally like went right in and was like pressing this right onto the apples of the cheeks. It feels like so intense in comparison to how I've been doing my blush for so long, but she just really went in and pressed this in and kind of buffed it around and was just like bopping and pushing until she was happy with how it looked on the skin. I just realized I forgot a really key part of the eyes, and I'm so sorry. One of the products that she uses so often, it's a Nikki Makeup classic, is the Chantecaille Brightening Eye Cagel in the shade Nude. And I actually love that she used this on the lower waterline instead of anything darker. And this is like a product that you will see her use time and time again. And I was so excited to finally get my hands on it. And I'm so sorry, I totally forgot to put that on the lower lash line, but let's just do that now while I'm thinking of it and really giving that eye that bright and alive look. What a beautiful color too. Now we can move on to the highlight, and the highlight specifically that she used that I was very thrilled about was the Dior Nude Glow, one of my favorite highlights ever. And she took like a really small amount of this. She was like, oh, like a look doesn't always need a highlight, but that it never hurts to have a little extra glow. And she kind of just placed that right on top of the cheekbone. And one thing she said is to make sure that you don't get too close to the under eye, which I was like, oh, I'm definitely guilty of that, taking my highlight too far. So it's really like pushing that into the cheek for that finishing little glow. I'm just gonna go back in with the blush brush that we used and just kind of push that in, make sure that it's all blended together. And then she also used a tiny little brush and took that highlight and placed this on the upper part of the inner corner. So she was like, don't go right into the inner corner, just go kind of above it, just right there, very precisely to help brighten up the eye. But she didn't go right into the inner corner or below it, which I thought was a very good tip, and I need to incorporate this more. So now we're gonna do brows, and she actually took like an isopropyl alcohol and like wiped them off before she did it. I don't have any of that, and she's also a huge fan of the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Freeze. However, I just love my e.l.f. brow lift so much, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do my brows. But I did think it was interesting that she saved the brows for last, just because so often we're told, and we do our brows first thing. Nikki Makeup was the one who really got us all into soap brows back in the day, or at least that's how I like really got into it at the start. Just really doing that laminated, like feathery, beautiful, big brow. So I'm gonna do my best to do a big, fluffy, feathery brow inspired by Nikki Makeup. So I'm just using my e.l.f. brow lift to push that into the skin. Push it into the skin? What am I saying? Push my brows onto my skin. And then she really loves to use a brow pen to fill it in. So I decided to pull out my little NYX brow pen here, the Lift and Snatch brow pen, and use that to fill in my brows. She said she loves to do like an elongated brow on the tail. So I'm just adding a little bit more fun there. But then of course I'm still gonna take my Benefit microfilling brow pen for the inner portion of the brow, because I love that this has 3 prongs and it just makes applying that intersection of the brow so much easier. Sorry, my camera really loses focus when I cover my eyes, so apologies in advance, but I'm just gonna go ahead and fill in the brows. So those are the brows done. I tried to leave them a little bit more natural and a little bit more feathery, not being too precise with it. And let's finish up with the lips. Now, she mentioned like a few favorites, but she really didn't go into detail for the specific like colors and products that she has in her kit. So each of the videos just used a different lip color according to the person that she was doing the makeup on. So I think I'm just gonna do my little fave here, and I'm gonna use my little Victoria Beckham nubbin of my O2 lip definer, because this was one of the products that she actually mentioned. She did mention the Victoria Beckham lip definer. So I'm just gonna go ahead and apply this, and she said to just like hold the lip liner flat to your lip and point up, which is something that I do anyway, and that just kind of helps to make it much more clean and easy to apply. And for the lipstick, because this is one of the first products that I ever bought inspired by Nikki Makeup, I'm gonna use my Chantecaille Lip Chic. This is in the shade Patience, and I just saw her use this so many times in so many of her Sunday tutorials on Instagram, so I just wanted to use this inspired by her today and just push that into the liner. And then she did go on top of this with the gloss. She did mention one thing, to not take your gloss to the edge of your lip liner, and that will help it to look much more natural. I just realized I'm gonna like destroy this gloss with this lipstick right now. But she did say to just keep this to the center of the lip, and it will still give that like plumping effect, but just to not take your gloss all the way across your lip. So to kind of cheat it, still getting that plumping look, but not ruining any of the liner and making sure that it doesn't bleed, which I thought was a great tip. And finally, my friends, setting spray. I'm gonna take my clips out, release the hair, and this is the finished look. So this is everything for the look, you guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. Those were a few of the many tips and tricks and also product recommendations that I learned from watching the Nikki Makeup master classes. And I wanted to share with you everything that I learned. And I hope that it was super helpful for you guys. And I just love her style of makeup. I think it's so beautiful. And I always love to learn from the absolute masters in the world that they master. So this is the Nikki Makeup inspired smoked out liner. Everything that I learned from her masterclass. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for being here and for watching, and please let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you all very, very soon for a new video. Bye!